It's a pleasure to speak to a group that doesn't need to be convinced of Latin America's vital importance to the United States.
It was always about what can we do for Latin America? What can we do for the Americas? It's no longer that. It's what can we do with Latin America?
The region is far from perfection, but the progress is unmistakable.
Latin Americans are shaping their own future. They are writing their own story. The United States is committed to supporting the vision of the people in the region.
I'm deeply vested in the promise of prosperity, innovation, and reasonable growth. And I know that we can do this together with all of you on this call and the Council of America.
For almost 60 years, the Council of the Americas has been the top organization focused on the Western Hemisphere with a business focus. We don't just lead the conversations, we actually help create the conversations around the Western Hemisphere.
You do so much to advance our common values throughout this hemisphere. And I want to thank you for your tireless efforts to educate about our hemisphere and to push for our common interests.
It's always great to interact with the government officials that the Council is able to gather together to hear their take on what they need industry to be doing in their country.
It is really a great avenue to get your issues in front of people who are your stakeholders, but to people who are actually the decision makers, public and private sector.
And also learning from colleagues who are in other industries. We share the same challenges about growing business and growing economic opportunity for all in the Americas.
Knowledge, history of what goes on in the region, and a continuity. I've been now through 3 administrations in the States, but the Council of Americas is exactly the same.
The private sector has a unique voice around the Western Hemisphere, particularly now when there's an active conversation about whether state-led growth or private sector-led growth is the more appropriate way to get to economic recovery. This is a conversation that the private sector absolutely has to not just be part of, but has to be leading.
There is no reason why the Western Hemisphere can't be the most forward-looking, most democratic, most prosperous, most peaceful, secure region in the world. We have unlimited potential. We have enormous resources.
Democratic, prosperous, secure, with unlimited potential and enormous resources. The comments of the President of the United States, Joe Biden, at last year's Summit of the Americas, echoing comments he made to us as Vice President when he addressed us this conference in 2013. And it's a perfect way to frame our 2023 Washington Conference on the Americas as we work together to restore a partnership for sustainable recovery and growth. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm Eric Farnsworth, and I'm very pleased to open the 53rd Washington Conference on the Americas here for the first time ever at the Organization of American States. Today, we are discussing opportunities in a new global reality. We have seen some dramatic shifts in just the past year since we last gathered. In fact, this is our first fully in-person Washington Conference on the Americas since 2019, and we thank you for joining us both in person and via live stream. We also thank State Department Assistant Secretary Brian Nichols for partnering with us once again, and U.S. Ambassador to the OAS, Frank Mora, for his assistance in procuring this wonderful conference venue. We are in for a terrific day, and we hope you have already been enjoying our specially produced music videos featuring the cultural activities of our sister organization, America Society. We will begin our program with a very high-level trade panel discussing ways to reinvigorate the hemispheric trade agenda. We will also feature an interview with U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai, so you'll be getting a strong dose of trade, and also finance. We have a fantastic panel with the heads of the World Bank and the IDB, David Malpass and Ilan Goldfein, respectively, and energy transition, with an interview of Deputy Energy Secretary David Turk, and a view from the Senate, featuring, as we always do, voices from the opposition party, and at the end of the day, a surprise guest I promise you'll want to see. Let me also offer a very special welcome to the hundreds of thousands of viewers, and I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of thousands, including senior business and government leaders, ambassadors, military and security officials, legislators, and influencers who are joining us virtually. And if you also want to join the influencers, our handle is at ASCOA, and our hashtag is 2023WCA. Indeed, our work today and throughout the year would simply not be possible without the unwavering support of our conference sponsors. Our presenting platinum sponsors are Amazon, Chevron, and Shell. Our gold sponsors are the AES Corporation, BMW Group, Chiquita, Coca-Cola Latin America, Freeport-McMoRan, GM, Integra Capital, Merck, which is MSD outside the United States, MetLife, Principal Financial Group, Repsol, and Walmart. Please join us in thanking each of them for their generosity and for their partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an amazing agenda and much to discuss, so let's get to it. To greet us on behalf of the U.S. Department of State, our longstanding partner in this enterprise, please join me in welcoming the Assistant Secretary of State for Western Hemisphere Affairs, my friend, our friend, Ambassador Brian Nichols. Ambassador Nichols.
Good morning, Eric, Susan, dear friends. Thank you to the Council of the Americas for the opportunity to join you today for a promising conversation on growing hemispheric prosperity and the opportunities for policymakers and the private sector. The Council's continued commitment to economic and social development, open markets, private sector-led growth, the rule of law, and democracy throughout the Western Hemisphere has made it the trusted partner and leader in our region for almost 60 years. The Washington Conference on the Americas serves as a crucial forum to set the agenda not just in Washington, but around the hemisphere. Current Council initiatives on trade, healthcare, energy transition, technology, and women's leadership, among others, advance meaningful hemispheric dialogue in Washington, New York, and cities around the hemisphere. The Biden-Harris administration shares this commitment to the Americas and continues to work with partners across the political spectrum to strengthen our democracies, spur inclusive growth, address climate change, and respond to regional migration. U.S. initiatives to address these concerns include the Americas Partnership for Economic Prosperity, the Los Angeles Declaration on Migration and Protection, the U.S.-Caribbean Partnership to address the climate crisis, and the Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment. The common thread that runs through our policy, domestic and foreign, remains making democracy work for all people. Following up on the 9th Summit of the Americas in Los Angeles, we launched an unprecedented effort to bring subnational governments and leaders into our hemispheric agenda. Under the theme, Global Challenges, Local Solutions, over 250 government leaders from cities, states, and other municipalities from across the Western Hemisphere gathered among 3,000 total participants in Denver last week for the Cities Summit of the Americas to advance regional cooperation, strengthen city-to-city ties, and seek solutions that improve the daily lives of our citizens. The Cities Summit advanced commitments made during the 9th Summit of the Americas related to inclusion, sustainability, resilience, migration, and democratic governance. Local governments deal with these issues every day and often play the leading role in finding solutions. The private sector works hand in hand with local leaders to forge innovative solutions to our region's challenges. The Innovation Plaza at the summit brought 50 companies together with solutions to housing, mobility, security, accessibility, and public benefits management challenges. The private sector partners here today similarly offer crucial solutions and opportunities at the national level for the United States and our partners around the region. Funding from the U.S. Trade and Development Agency will help identify and deploy smart technologies and develop a roadmap for broader smart cities implementation throughout the country. Similarly, Ex-Im Bank and USAID provide key financial partnerships to advance local, private, and public collaboration. Beyond that, at the City Summit, mayors committed to the Denver Declaration to address mutual priorities including housing and sustainable development, migration, and climate action. Regional mayors adopted the Strong City Network statement on enhancing mayoral leadership against hate, extremism, and polarization and addressing local democracy in the Americas, and the Global Declaration of Mayors for Democracy. Cities stand on the front lines of the fight to preserve democracy and defend against attacks on free expression. Over 200 mayors worldwide signed the declaration since its launch in June 2022 and committed to rebuilding and reinforcing democracy. The Department of State launched the Cities Forward initiative in Denver, fulfilling commitments President Biden and Secretary Blinken made at the 9th Summit. Cities Forward will help selected cities design projects to ignite job creation, innovation, investment, mitigate all forms of pollution, strengthen climate resilience, and build the environment. The mayor of Rio de Janeiro, Eduardo Paes, with U.S. and regional support, launched the Anti-Racist Cities Network, a project that dovetails with our efforts to promote a more inclusive hemisphere. Looking to the Organization of American States General Assembly this June in Washington, the United States will continue promoting democracy and human rights and strengthening the inter-American system to improve how we collectively deliver for the people of the Americas. We value our essential cooperation and coordination with the Council of the Americas and its member companies as we advance our shared goals and vision for the hemisphere. I look forward to today's discussions. Thanks very much.
We're going to go back.